to move toward approval. And the really difficult part for me is that a lot of that learning came from a trial that we didn't feel like was designed very well, and now we know is dead. And that's the IT trial. That, you know, there's boys still getting that, but that's one of the things I think I've learned in this community is, you know, take what we have and what we go through, and how do we learn from that, and how do we build on that. And you know, I'm thankful that he's been a part of that, but it was really, really important to me to take, you know, what we didn't think was good and right and turn that into something better. And so that's one of the things I'm really proud of. In the effort to try to save that trial, a couple of the things that we came up with were, you know, new measures to try to use. One being using toileting. You know, we saw that as something that we could really see a difference in, and developing the toileting ability survey, and, you know, variations of that are now being used in clinical trials. And then another measure was to use the clinical global impression scale that, as far as I know, had not ever been used in Hunter syndrome, or maybe in the MPSs. And that was something that I really felt could capture a lot of what was missing and how to look at the clinical trial and what we were seeing, and that's now also being used in trials. So I'm really proud of that that work and the changes we've made in the trial design. The unmet needs, I feel like, is the use of data that's otherwise being collected in other circumstances. So you know, I've really work to try to wrap my brain around the issue of IEPs and 504s that our kids are in school, and a lot of them are under IEPs, and tons of data is being gathered. And how do we take that data and use it in a way that is effective and helpful in the setting of clinical trials and clinical care? And that's a problem I haven't solved yet. But I hate to see anything go to waste. And that's one area I think that's open for right use.
Thank you for that. Cara, could you give us your spin on those sorts of questions?
Sure. I'm proud of so much of what's happened since we started kind of playing our role in it, and again, acknowledging the decades of work that came before we even, you know, were touched by Sanfilippo. But coming in and kind of, you know, taking that problem-solving approach and seeing where are the gaps and where can we fill in, and you know, take a stepping stone from what had been done. We also, you know, Sanfilippo community also was in a situation where trials were not meeting endpoints, or sponsors were walking away from programs because of various challenges. And also realizing that perhaps, you know, what was being measured maybe wasn't accurately reflecting what was going on. You know, we didn't have tools to meet those needs. And also that, you know, maybe we weren't looking for efficacy in the place that was most meaningful to families, and that spurred on, you know, the initiation of a fairly comprehensive caregiver preference study. And the society was gracious to help us find space to, you know, house a couple of those focus groups that were part of that study, so we appreciate that for sure. But the insights that every parent who was part of that contributed, and this not just US families, but around the world, families who contributed to those insights, has now been published in 2 peer-reviewed publications and 1 more forthcoming, but has allowed us to really inform the FDA about what families need and want, and it has helped in the development of ongoing clinical trials and future clinical trials. and helped us develop some other outcome measures. Again, the bathroom is one area that we have not been able to capture in Sanfilippo either, and while we weren't necessarily focused on the developmental skills that you guys really nicely honed in on in your scale, we wanted to focus more on the impact of the constipation, diarrhea, discomfort symptoms with the GI tract in Sanfilippo, and so developed the bowel habit impact scale for that, as well as using that information to develop the first video outcome study and scoring system for Sanfilippo. So these are just first iterations, and everything we're doing is the first time for the most part, and so we're all kind of learning along the way together. The second thing I'd say is really proud of is the drug repurposing study that we were able to pull together with the team at Lundquist Institute. Dr. Polgreen, Agnes Chen, Julie Isengart, and look at how we wanted to run a trial in a different way, in a very patient-centered way, using information from that caregiver preference study, doing a different trial design, and I think working with investigator-led, studies, we have more flexibility in what we can do there and really step out and try some new things that then hopefully gives other people the confidence to, okay, well, maybe we can do that too. This study was very open in its inclusion of all Sanfilippo subtypes, children and adults, primarily symptomatic patients. So really creating opportunities where doors would have otherwise been shut for the neglected population. So really proud to see that study kind of come through, and hopefully now has enrolled last patient. So getting results over this coming year. We'll be looking forward to that. And then lastly, we're coming to the end of our global clinical care guidelines development process, which has been a multi-year event. And Dr. Munzer is here, who's on the steering committee of that, but so many people who are probably at this meeting contributed to that effort, which is now under peer review for publication. And we really hope that will kind of equalize the playing field, or access to knowledge about kind of standard of care type of information for families around the world, because most doctors will never see a patient with Sanfilippo again. So hopefully we'll all kind of raise up the bar on standard of care once these are out.
Thank you, Cara. Terri.
There's so much, like Cara said, but the things that obviously resonate with me today and this week is the newborn screening and the efforts that the society's put forward before my time. When I came in 2009, but through that nomination for MPS 1, at least, working under the tutelage of Barbara Weed-Hayes and watching her work through that with the nominating committee and understanding it, and then getting into the trenches for MPS 2. It's that part of it that you reach inside yourself and you wrap around what's best for everyone. Because a win for Hunter syndrome and a win for MPS 1 Hurler syndrome is a win for my daughter. It's a win for everyone at the organization. I know there'll be more, but I don't know how to share with you the impact of something that significant that's going to change the lives of these babies forever in our country. And I'm so grateful that I live here, that we were able to do this. And I hope we can find the path forward for other countries to be able to do the same thing. And I'm grateful to the nominating committee that allowed this layman woman to be with them, to cheer along, and to project manage, because I project manage really well. But I may not be a scientist, right? And I'm proud of that. But I'm proud of this organization for thinking outside the box to have a pathways program, and recognizing how important it would be to have social workers on our team to meet with families at the time of diagnosis. there's two kinds of calls. There's the call that we have a treatment, and there's a call that we have nothing. And we ebb and flow every day through those conversations with the families, and they're very hard. But the National MPS Society saw that, and the build-out of that Pathways program has been so vital to these families, so very, very important. We could have never known just how important it would have been. We couldn't. And we're grateful for that, and that expansion will continue to happen. And that same forward thinking of the organization to bring on a chief scientific officer also showed that we need, like Cara said, we need to bring it back up again. We need to go again. We need to go again at science and at research. And to be able to have Dr. Matthew Ellenwood start with us and join with us to say we need to push the envelope with researcher. We need to make those network connections. We need to be at those meetings. We need to ensure that this researcher can match up with this funding here. And those are, that's just another level that the society is moving in for research, because it's so crucial. And it's not just within this country, but it's a global effort. And I'm so proud of those things. But I'm also proud of something that I want to share from my glycoprotein side of the work that I did. And that's with alpha-mannosidosis. About 3 years ago, Dr. Paul Harmitz and I had gone to the FDA to talk about alpha-mannosidosis and a clinical trial design, and to go back and wrap around the families, because we thought, what if we could talk about the medical records that our alpha-man patients had gone through, because they had so many colds. They had so many common colds. They were ear infections and the ears, nose, and throat issues that were part of alpha-mannosidosis. Could this be something that could be an identifier within the clinical trial design? Where that went with that company is a different story, but hearing the FDA be receptive to the idea that in this super orphan disease, there is something here that we could possibly put together to help bring forward in the clinical trial for alpha-mannosidosis in this country. I'm grateful to Dr. Harmitz for that experience. I would have said it if you weren't in the room, because it showed me also that we have a voice, and the voice of the parent to bring forth a common thing like a toileting survey, or possibly videoing your child that might be going, that could become a part of a clinical trial. That's everything. We really do have voices. We're the parents, we're the caregivers of these children, and we don't have to skip past these common thoughts, allowing those threads to come through that could possibly change how we design a clinical trial for success when sponsors are putting millions of dollars together to find a therapy. We need to help them. And so I'm proud of the work that I did at ISMRD that allowed me to think about the super orphan diseases, because we can never forget the super orphan diseases.
Thank you all. It is a tremendous privilege for me, and I think I speak for the audience, to hear your discussions on these incredibly personal and impactful histories. As we close, and I'm going to open this up to the group of you, as we move forward, how do you view optimum collaboration for the patient community at large? And I'll throw it out to all three of you. You can fight over that one in the middle.
Well, I'm going to jump in because I want to build on something Terri said first, and that was, especially for new families out there, one of the things I've learned along the way is just how gifted parents are in understanding their child and their disease. And if I could just get people to remember something that I heard years ago, what is obvious to you is magic to someone else. And just the learnings that have come from what parents observe in their children and talking, and you think, well, I know this, and these well-funded pharmaceutical companies, they must know all of this stuff, but they actually don't. What parents know is like inventing fire, and it is magic to helping our kids. And so that's the piece I had to build on. But as far as collaboration, I've always looked at it as a Venn diagram, because I'm just a logical brain, that among the different organizations, there's overlap, but then finding, what is it that certain organizations are specially equipped to do, or that special knowledge they have, or what are they really, really good at? And encouraging one another to look at those things and support one another in those different aspects. And then where there's overlap, collaborating together and finding, what each organization does best and, can focus on. I think with Project Alive, one of the things we realized is, we want to fund a gene therapy trial, and that is going to cost millions of dollars. Well, that's not a specialty area for the society. The society is not giving grants for millions of dollars. And so we're like, well, that's something we can do that is very specific, and then like clinical trial design about our specific disease. And so, that's kind of how I see about collaboration is figuring out what each of you do best, you're specially designed to do, and then supporting one another in the overlap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would echo that for sure. As everyone who comes to the table with the desire to make a change has something to give, and as unique human beings, we all have different things to give and strengths, and so I agree with that for sure. I mean, this overwhelming theme of newborn screening that we've heard this evening, is one very obvious, kind of low-hanging fruit place of needed collaboration, and something I know that we are looking forward to as a priority. So yeah.
Well, being a mom too in this space, you don't have to be a mom to have this position, I understand that, but what it does, it allows me to see Cara, see her, and see Melissa, see her, and see any of the foundations, the sister foundations that start, because I'm so proud of them, because they came forward to say, this is not right, this is not enough, we have to do more. And for all of those that can't do that, just know that there's those that will step forward in these ways, and they've changed their lives, they've changed their careers, they changed their family dynamics in their futures to work with these patient communities. And that's everything. That's just everything. You don't quantify it. It's a blessing. And the places that we can find to collaborate and work, I know and I trust, and we receive, and we'll find those places. And they're gonna be along the science. They're gonna be along collaborative research projects together, or newborn screening, or maybe another piece of advocacy legislation, or the white paper we worked on for education during the pandemic.
Absolutely.
That was a wonderful piece.
Yes.
We will find those places, but there's room for all of us, because there is a need. There is an unmet need. We do not have a cure. We do not have an approved therapy for Sanfilippo syndromes across all four. We don't have therapies for mucolipidosis, and we don't have a cure for any of them. And I think what Melissa and Cara are now seeing, because maybe I'm 10 years ahead of them as I'm 22 years into this space, is some of this stuff just takes a darn long time to do, and it takes a lot of energy. And so while we are working, we recognize that sometimes they are our colleagues, and we can rely on you or come to you and say, we've got to find some more energy resources, because they can deplete, because we do have other children, and we do have so many kids that we're caring about. So I think the future's bright in terms of collaboration. I'm grateful every day for the days that I met Cara and Melissa, and for any of the patient advocates that are out there with us today and for this week, for anything that you do to advocate for your children. Because we'll get there, but it's not a marathon. I mean, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So
We wish it was a sprint.
we wish it was a sprint.
I wish we had all evening to continue to listen to you three. You individually and as a group just epitomize what makes me so grateful about the work I do and am able to contribute to. Let's give them another round of applause. Thank you. And with that, our first session concludes, and Terry's probably coming over here to say something.
Yeah, I know I put a mic on. I forgot I even had a mic on. I ran over here. The buffet for the dinner is going to be in the lobby, and then the room next door, CD, is where we're serving food. But because the conference grew so big, we came up with this wonderful idea of having an overflow room. So this session's, just so you guys know, is actually being streamed on a big screen next door with all the audio. So we have about 100 people next door. And they're getting a jump start possibly on dinner on you, and I'm apologizing for that. But if you are a newly diagnosed family, we're going to be meeting at Bell Mead, and there's going to be a separate buffet for our newly diagnosed families. Dr. Joseph Munzer and myself and Carol Bryant are going to meet you over there. And thanks for a fabulous first session. Have a wonderful night, everyone. And don't forget about the breakouts.
We love you. Oh, I got to see Jenny earlier.
Yeah, a little
We're talking about her
Jenny.
summer. What a wild ride.
I want to have. Are you kidding me? I want to have a heart attack. I was throwing up almost. Like I need to be in Hawaii with you. You know.
It was great. It was great.
I'll
probably never have a year like that again. It's basically a month of vacation. You know. Thanks.
Oh, yep. Here you go. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.